Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of What the Health Just Happened, where we talk about all things healthcare, community, business, and life. The goods, the bads, the ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights, and everything in between. We are so fortunate to have on a variety of guests way smarter than we are to share their industry and life expertise and all things healthy versus not healthy. Today, I'm fired up. I look up to you. I respect you. I don't know if I think that's a good thing, right?
Thank you.
We're going to talk about Jesus.
You should, but thank you.
We're going to talk about Jesus a little bit, or a lot, probably. CEO of Lifework Leadership, First Coast, Doctor. She said, don't call her Doctor. I'm calling you Doctor. Tammie McClafferty. Did I say the last name correct?
McClafferty.
Again, I'm embarrassed. I thought your last name was McClarity for a year.
It's all right. Sounds good too.
CEO of Lifework Leadership, First Coast. I love the program. I just went through it. You got another class coming up. Let's start with what in the world is Lifework Leadership?
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Lifework Leadership, in a nutshell, it is a faith-based leadership development. So we take business leaders and professionals from every industry and every background, put them through an 8-month training on how to lead like Jesus did. And so at the heart of it, we look at how he led his disciples. Truthfully, that's kind of the core of what we look at. If you look at the 12 disciples, they were fishermen. So we had the labor industry. We had a tax collector. So you have the business finance district. You had a healthcare industry. You had a doctor. Right? So he pulled from all these different pillars in a city, and he pulled in these 12 men, and he spent 3 years with them and said, let me train you up. And then I'm going to send you back out to do what God called you to do. Luke stayed a doctor. Paul stayed a tent maker. They kept doing what they were doing, but this time they took the gospel. And so thousands of years later, millions of people have been presented the gospel by 12 business guys.
Oh, that's powerful. Already, right off the bat. So Lifework Leadership First Coast, that's here in Northeast Florida. That's what you're running. What area are you covering? Is that just Duval? Is it the Big Five? Lifework Leadership First Coast, what is your audience?
Yeah, ideally, you can kind of say the Big Five. We've even had people come from Georgia. So, it's really how far you're willing to drive. Lifework itself is global. So we've been around about 31 years since it launched. It launched in Orlando. They kind of saw what was happening and said, hey, we can take this to other cities and, do the same thing. And so it started in South Florida, then it came up to Jacksonville, then it went to Atlanta and Cleveland and Denver and Dallas, and it just kind of spread. And then I want to say 6 years ago, it was taken over by an organization called City Changers out of Pretoria, South Africa. And once we were kind of taken over by them, it really gave us a global footprint. So Lifework is now in 34 nations around the world, which is amazing.
Cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah. And I hope to not talk about my experience too much, but one of them is a virtual. So you meet every single month. We'll get to that, what you're covering, the speakers, the books. But one of them was remote, and people Zoom in or Teams in for a call. And we had people in Amsterdam, I think Australia, South Africa. It's pretty cool. Although I had to leave because my wife got into a car accident and had to drop off.
Right. I forgot that.
Missed that.
That was crazy.
So a little background to you. You owned and operated schools. Is that the best way? The educational background.
All the way back, yeah. So I started as a teacher. Way back. I actually started as a music vocal major.
Are you a singer?
I thought I was. But one semester in, they called me in and were like, you should probably find another degree.
This isn't for you?
So I thought I was a singer, but I clearly wasn't. And so at that point, I'm not a good education person. I didn't like school. I didn't like to study. I didn't get good grades. And so at that point, it was like, what degree could I do that will get me out of here the fastest? And it was education. And they were like, elementary ed. I was like, I think I can handle that. I think I should be able to do that. So I went L-Ed. And because God is so good, he saw a calling in me that I didn't even see. And the reality was I loved teaching. I loved every aspect of it. So taught for years. Thought I would do that until I die. And then I had kids, and every mom,
surprise,
right? It's whew, wait, this is going to look different with kids. And I grew up in a very faith-based community. And so part of my story is at that point, I felt the pressure of being a stay-at-home mom. That's kind of what you do that? As a Christian, that's the more biblical. I grew up in a very conservative, very biblical family, which was amazing, and church. But there definitely was this unwritten rule that it's more spiritual to stay at home as the woman. And I didn't want to, like I loved work. I loved teaching. I loved what God called me to do. I felt like I was making impact. And so there was this moment in my life of really like, Lord, if you want me to stay home, I will, but I'm going to do it begrudgingly because I don't want to. Which then led to the Lord, as only God can do, speaking and saying, I've called you to do something and it's okay. Like, I want you to walk in this space. And in that space was start your own school for your kids, right? Because
these are all big pivots.
I couldn't like go back to teaching and then put my kid in childcare that didn't meet up to the standards that I would have expected. So as a teacher, if I was going to put my kid in childcare to watch my kid every day, 8 hours a day, it needed to be academic. But then the faith side of me needed it to be faith-filled. And I just couldn't find it. And so God said, you start one. And I was like, okay. And so we didn't know what we were doing. And I mean, that's half the joke is, we started a business that we had no business running. I was a teacher, elementary. My husband was a physical therapist. Like, we don't know the first thing about business. Nobody in our family had done business. We didn't know anything but God. And so we did. So we just kind of sold the house, threw everything we had into opening a daycare center. We called it the Sycamore Center, childcare that's looking up, because the only biblical reference to little people was Zacchaeus. They say he was a little man and he climbed up in a sycamore tree.
Okay.
I mean, we had nothing. We're so bad.
Grasping. Hey,
so
I like the name.
But we started it. I mean, we opened the doors and thought, God's just going to bless because we just stepped out in faith. And we opened the doors and there were 0 kids. We sold our house. I mean, everything. And I was like,
What year was that?
My daughter was born in 2001. So this would have been 2002, 2003.
Okay. And then it grew, like when you left that.
Yeah, it exploded.
So 0 people to how many locations?
So we had 4 locations. Eventually, we were serving thousands of students. We had, 50 plus employees, and we were the fastest growing childcare center in the state of Pennsylvania at the time. Received the largest grant from the state to fly all of our staff to Disney to train because we were really, sounds funny now, 30 years ago, but we were a little bit on the cutting edge of childcare because I had worked at the public school. I had this really great relationship with the public school. So we began to build childcare at age 2 and 3 to fit the school that the kids were going to. So we were the first to initiate busing to childcare, and which now is all normal. But at the time, we were cutting edge.
Cutting edge.
And so...
was the daycare itself, did you bring biblical principles other than the name there?
We did. And it's a very interesting thing in childcare. It still is today. When you work with children 5 and under, there are no guidelines from the state. So you can be a fully state licensed school. So I got all of the state funding, all of the grants, everything that was out there for states, but they don't adjust my curriculum. So we designed a fully faith-based curriculum on the state's money, which... Wow. Like, we kept taking steps going, somebody's going to stop us because this can't be right. Like,
this is too good to be
somebody's
true.
coming after us. And they didn't. And so we just kept getting relicensed and getting all the money and all the grants. And we kept expanding. And we just did it all completely 110% faith-based.
And it shows, though, how quickly it grew, how many people came. I'm assuming some points you had waiting lists. Like our kids' school right now, which is a Christian private school, it's the longest waiting list they've ever had. Okay. Well, surprise. Thank you for that, God.
Yeah. Amazing.
Here you are in Northeast Florida, Lifework Leadership.
How did we get here?
How did you get here?
I think looking back, I got what I asked for, right? I asked the Lord, I'm like, let me do something that I love, teaching, but still get to be with my kids. And he just said, here, you can spend every day with your kids, still teaching, creating this business. And we were just bombarded by the love of God in this growth. I mean, we were just growing faster than we could. And truthfully, I tell people we were drowning in success, which, I mean, what a great place to be.
Yeah,
but as a family, we're like 3 little kids, this thriving business. We're being swallowed up by the success of it. And so my husband, in all of his wisdom, just said, we need to take a break. And so he challenged us as a couple all these years ago to study the Sabbath, which is such a random thing. But he said, I want to take 3 months separately, you and I want us to both study the Sabbath based on God's word, because we're doing something wrong, because we know God's called us to be here and he's giving us favor and he's blessing the business. So we're doing it right, but we're dying. So therefore we're doing something wrong. And so we did. So we studied the Sabbath
Side by
independently.
side.
Nope.
Okay,
separately. He would do his study. I would do mine. And then he said, in 3 months, we're going to come back together and see what God showed us. So independently, while we're running around with kids and business and life and all the stuff, he and I focused on studying the Sabbath. And we met 3 months. I mean, we obviously were living together. Yeah. We saw each other again 3 months later.
Moved in separate apartments.
New
Yeah.
place.
We went to a little hot dog shop and said, okay, what's your notes? What did the Lord tell you? What have you been studying? And that study changed everything about everything. Ultimately, it was what led us to Florida. The two biggest takeaways from that study, and there was a million, but the two biggest that we kind of walked away from was, biblically speaking, God says we work 6 days a week. We come from a culture that we work 5 days a week and pat ourselves on the back like, whew, weekend's here, right? We worked Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Yay, us, we're workaholics. God says you work 6 days a week and you take one off. And then the biblical principle is you work from sunup to sundown. And when we really studied that idea of sunup to sundown, it's a 12-hour workday. And so there is this concept of we're supposed to be working productivity 12 hours a day, 6 days a week.
I love, because you and I have talked about this on the side. I like this too. And it's not, so when I say 212 benefits, maybe that's 9 to 5. But when I get home, I don't stop working. I still have to be a present father, a present husband. Like that's additional part of the work. It's not adding 16-hour work days in the office, but Saturdays when you're driving your kids to football practice, right? And you're reinforcing them as a mother, that's part of the work.
And that was part of it. I mean, there's a verse in scripture that says, work out your Sabbath. And I think that verse was where we sat back and said, okay, if it means we're to work 12 hours a day of productivity, 6 days a week, and then we get our Sabbath, like we have to work that out. So what does that look like? And we started working backwards then. Covey says, begin with the end in mind, right? So our thing was like, all right, if we want to get to that, how do we work backwards? And part of it was what you're saying is we had to realize, what are we calling our productivity? And that changes in different phases of my life. Like right now, my kids are gone, so I don't have that time. So what am I filling those 12 hours with now?
Radio shows.
Right, radio shows, right? So, and then what's our rest? My husband, if you said his rest, he'd be sitting on the couch watching football all day eating wings. And that is just like, after I worked a big week, I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to sit and eat wings and watch football. If you made that my rest, I would slit my wrists.
Yeah.
Like, that's not my rest, right? So you have to understand that your rest looks differently too.
What's your rest?
It's funny. I love to shop and I'm not a good shopper. But even that, I realized if I'm struggling financially, like we're in a week where we didn't get paid, the kids cost this, the kids lost that, and then I would go take my Sabbath and go to the mall, it's going to stress me out because I don't have the money. So therefore, then that's not good rest because now I'm stressed. So there's a concept of even when we work out our Sabbath, it's going to change from week to week based on what my rest is and where I'm at in my life right now. And so if I'm struggling financially, my rest isn't going to be the mall that week. It's going to be the beach where it doesn't cost me anything and I can still rest. So you have to plan.
So that was one, you said two big things you took out of it, right? So working 6 days, taking a day off. What was the other thing?
Taking an actual sabbatical.
This is big. A lot of people were like, feel weird talking about this. Go ahead.
So we had been in the business then, the daycare. We had started the schools and we had been in it 6 years.
Nonstop.
And there is nonstop. And we were successful. I mean, all was well. We were honoring God. We were tithing, doing all the stuff. And when we did this study, we were like, wow, like there is a work 6 days, work 12-hour days, rest, but do that for 6 years. And then in the Old Testament, they stopped working the land for a 7th year, a sabbatical, and they rested the land. And you hear that word, especially in education. And I was like, well, what would that look like in real business? Like, can we just walk away from our business? And so we did. We leaned into the Lord and said, all right, Lord, if we're going to go all in, we're going to go all in. What do you want us to do? And so we ultimately hired more staff, closed down one location that was struggling a little bit, and took a sabbatical. And we found that Liberty University at the time had a branch campus in Jacksonville, Florida. And so we thought, all right, sabbaticals are really a way to kind of refuel for the Lord. Like, okay, whatever you have for me next, Lord, I'm going to do, but I need to be refueled for it. So we thought going back to seminary would be a way that we could refuel ourselves to continue doing what God called us to do. And so we moved to Jacksonville, Florida to a 1-year seminary program. And
Welcome.
Here we are.
Yeah.
So
both of you talked about the competition between you and your husband when you're at school together. What was that like?
first class in seminary. So again, he had his doctorate already. He was a physical therapist. So he had done all the schooling, medical doctor guy, all the stuff. I had a master's in teaching at that point. So we both went into seminary and walked into the first class. And it was funny at the time because he's the computer guy. So he came in with his computer, ready. And I came in with like my paper and pencil and my highlighters, my little Post-it notes. And so we both thought our method was the best method. And so when we went in, we didn't even sit by each other because I was like,
Look at this guy's computer.
I sat on one side, he sat on the other, and everything he would say or I would say in the class, one of us would rebuttal. So by the end of the class, the professor called us up and was like, you two need to absolutely go a different direction. So he went New Testament focused. So all of his classes were New Testament focused. I went leadership. So we both did seminary, graduated with our degree, but in different fields.
This is, again, your family dynamic. I know enough about off the record. Maybe we'll hit that the second half. But so after that, were you searching for things and said, oh, what's this Lifework Leadership thing? How did that fall in your lap? Were you?
Yeah. So we finished seminary, went back to Pennsylvania. I mean, we came down here for a year, did seminary, went back to Pennsylvania with a business, thought we were just going to kind of be there. And the Lord had us just fall in love with Jacksonville. I mean, I tease that, coming from the north, I didn't realize people could live here. Like I thought you vacationed or you retired. So when we actually came and we're like, oh, there's churches and schools and baseball and football. And, we had the worst winter on record in Pennsylvania, all this stuff. So we got back there and we're just like, oh, we don't want to be here. So we went through a process. It took us a little bit of time. We had to sell the business, the schools and all of that. And ultimately moved back to Jacksonville. He had to take a physical therapy job because now we sold the business. So he went back into therapy. He became the director at Brooks Rehab in Ponte Vedra. And then I had to go back into education, which was my background. So I became the principal at a school here in Ponte Vedra. It used to be Acatink. It's not there anymore. And we were just doing life again. I was a principal. He was a physical therapist. And we were just doing life. And I began to realize how much I missed the business side of things. I didn't realize I liked the business.
Itch, yep.
And so I was like, well, now I have some experience, like mom and pop experience, but I don't really have any background. So that's what sent me back to get my doctorate. So then I decided to go back and get my doctorate in organizational leadership, which again, probably not the smartest thing I ever did, but that's okay. And so went back to school, working on my doctorate, and then far enough along in my doctorate that I could transition over to the college, which was where I was heading. So I thought. So I ended up working at Southeastern University here in Jacksonville, became the director of the university. So I was teaching, I was a professor there, I was the director, really loved it. At that point, my husband had crossed over to the higher ed. So he became the dean of physical therapy. So again, you look at our life. Not the same university. Okay. Heck no. Too competitive. Way too competitive. But again, I mean, God is good, right? I mean, we're both working at the university. We get a month off at Christmas. I mean, kids are getting older now, free college tuition. Yep. Like, God is good. He just set us up. And then I think I hit the midlife crisis. I don't know what it was, where I was like, I have been in education in some capacity for 20 plus years. And I wanted something different.
Yeah.
I remember having the conversation with my husband just saying, I could go to work with my eyes closed. I could teach kindergartners spelling, and I could teach adults theology and anything in between. And when we get that comfortable in our work, we don't need Jesus. And it's not intentional. We just go to work and do our job. When you're starting a business or you're starting something different or you're transitioning, as followers of Christ, we're on our knees. Like, but God, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to start a business.
Please let me be able to keep the lights on tomorrow.
Right. I mean, so you're leaning into Jesus because you're taking these risks. When we get so comfortable in our work that we don't have to lean into Jesus, that's where I felt like I was. I was just going to work and I never wanted to be there.
That's a dangerous place to be. Go ahead, Trey.
This is a random question. Yeah. When you came down here from Pennsylvania to do seminary, where'd you guys go to church for that year?
Yeah, great question. It was called Crosswater Community Church, which at the time was in Ponte Vedra. They were meeting at the old, which now the concert hall.
Okay.
They were meeting there, and they were in the process of moving out to Nocatee. So they built a big building out in Nocatee. Yeah. So we transitioned out there with them.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Have you been to the Ponte Vedra concert hall recently?
No, I have not, but it looks beautiful. I drive by it, but I've not been in it yet.
It's pretty cool.
It looks great.
I love that's a hidden gem, by the way.
Yeah, it looks great.
We're clearly diving in deep on Lifework Leadership the second half. Or not. Who knows?
Who
knows where we go, right?
Fun, right?
I'm always fascinated by journeys. So how are your kids during this, right? That's a lot of change, and what are their
Yeah.
ages? And they're just like, all right, mom, dad, let's go.
They were. I mean, I think Creed, he's my middle one, who I love. Always the middle one gets my heart. He went to 3 kindergartens. And as a teacher, I understood the value of kindergarten. That's where you learn to read.
Yeah.
We were in Florida, finishing up seminary, went back to Pennsylvania, and then moved back to Florida before the end of the year. So that time, he literally did 3 kindergartens in 1 year. And I was like, I've ruined my children. Like, I know better. And it's so fun now as 3 adult kids who are all doing wonderful. They look at that time as the most fun time of their lives. They're like, we made so many friends. We had, I mean, what I thought was devastating and life altering to 5, 6, 7-year-olds, they were loving
The
life.
magic of kids.
Yeah.
The stuff we stress so much about things on our kids' behalf when in reality they're just sitting there smiling like, this is great.
This is great.
Yep.
We're road tripping. Like,
Yeah.
they were amazing.
Okay, let's do this too. We got a couple minutes left. Road tripping, family trips, because we've talked about this offline. This I love this approach. I hope we can do it, but
Yeah, we don't love to repeat vacations, right? There's too much of the world to see. So we're big travelers. We've always loved it. We've always put our emphasis on travel. So we might not have money for kids' college or marriage, but we traveled. And we made the rule, we never repeat. Like there's too much to see, so we're not repeating. So for a couple years in there, because of finances, we did RV trips. And I think that's what we were talking about. So we rented the RVs, 1-800-RENT-ME RVs, like the cheesy,
for you or something. Yeah.
the cheesy RVs. We took the kids and the dog, they're all little, and we just went. So our first trip, we left from our house here in Florida and did all the way down to San Antonio. So we went through New Orleans and, I always tease the most fun was the boys because we'd get the ones that you drive. So you don't have to be buckled in. So the kids can just run amok in the back of the RV. And the boys just would think it was the most fun to pee in the RV while we're driving. So the door's open, the sister's like, stop. And they're like, just
sounds like my household.
Peeing while we're driving couldn't have been more fun. And so we did that. And it was so much fun to be in the RV as a family that we did it again. This time we wanted to see more of the West. So we flew into Arizona and rented from Arizona and then did, Utah and the Narrows. And
Are you going to churches on these trips?
we do a lot of churches. So
Yeah.
we've tried to hit a lot of the big churches just for the fun of it. So we've gone to Joel Osteen's church. When we did the Texas trip, we geared it so that we'd stop at Joel Osteen's church in Houston on the way. And then we did Saddleback when we did the California. And then we did Bethel when we
you're
did the
building
Upper.
that in.
So we build in, we try to find the big famous churches, just for the fun of it when we're traveling.
Okay, one more. Growing up, faith-based family growing up,
Mm-hmm.
right? Your husband was similar. Did he grow up in the church?
He was Catholic. He grew up very Catholic.
Okay.
So he has an amazing story. But yes, so he grew up with knowledge.
I'm asking I have young children. You have adult children now. How important is their faith in their lives for mom and dad?
Thankfully, we're getting there.
Okay.
Right? I think my daughter, who just got engaged, is 110% sold out for Jesus and loves the Lord, but had to go through, when you grow up in a Christian home, there comes a point when you have to make your faith your own. And you can no longer just lean into, my parents believe, so I believe.
Yeah.
And I think we've watched all of my kids go through that. They left the house, went to college, and had these couple years of woohoo, freedom and fun. Mom and dad aren't around. My daughter has wonderfully made her way back to Jesus. And not that she ever went away, but she definitely was my middle son, Creed, he is getting there. We are watching just this weekend we spent with him, and just to watch the growth of him spiritually, and he's re-engaged in the church and he's looking now what God called him to. My youngest one is 18. I think we're watching him, experience life.
Yep.
And we are trusting that verse that says, train up a child in the way he will go and he will not depart.
That is what I anticipated to hear as I look at my young children and think about my journey in life. Man, that first half flew by. Lifework Leadership First Coast CEO, Dr. I like saying that, Tammie McClafferty. Not McClarity, by the way. That's what the hell just happened. Welcome back to the second half of What the Hell Just Happened. If you're here on the radio, missed the first half, good news is you can catch the full episode on your favorite podcast platform under What the Hell Just Happened, or apparently YouTube also. We like to crack jokes about YouTube. We're on YouTube. There's all these cameras in here, but I don't even know if anybody watches it. What the Health Just Happened is the name of the show. The first half, we talked about Jesus a little bit. We talked about Lifework Leadership First Coast a little bit. But I appreciate you sharing your story, your journey to get where you are today, which is hysterical, cool, unique. We appreciate you, Dr. Tammie. I love saying that. Healthy or not healthy? You ready?
I'm going to try.
Healthy or not healthy being an empty nester?
Ooh. Healthy.
Okay.
Unhealthy.
Can
I do both?
They can say both.
Can I
Healthy
do both?
or not healthy going to seminary school with your husband?
Again, healthy to go to seminary, unhealthy to do it together.
Okay. Healthy or not healthy? I think this is hysterical. Moving 17 times.
For me, healthy. It's cleansing.
Oh, man, that sounds
Cleansing.
exhausting. Healthy or not healthy, your husband being a pastor?
Healthy.
Okay. Healthy or not healthy, Lifework Leadership First Coast?
Oh, healthy.
I would say very healthy.
Healthy. We allowed to say very healthy?
Yeah, you could say whatever you want, honestly. Healthy or not healthy, the trip to South Africa with Lifework Leadership?
Healthy.
Healthy? Did you go?
I did, and I'm going again. They invited me back in November.
We might have to talk about that.
So fun.
You got something? Oh, he waved me off. Okay, let's transition into Lifework Leadership. I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to tell a brief story. So I had coffee with a gentleman named Aaron. If you're tied to Lifework Leadership, you're familiar with who Aaron is. Didn't know what Lifework Leadership was. He pulls up a website. I'm like, I know that person. And then I went on a leadership trip to Indianapolis, and sitting next to me on an airplane is none other than this fine young woman over here.
Young, thank you.
Said, okay, God, I hear you. Went through it this last cohort, one of the best experiences I've ever had in my entire life, and I've been through a lot of programs. So who should know about this that doesn't? I know a class is coming up. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about this class coming up. How many people are in it? How relevant are table coaches? Just like, what does the program look like?
Yeah. So we launch a class every year. Launches in October. And then their graduation's in May. So we do a different cohort every year launching in October. So we really kind of kick up the recruiting, for lack of a better word, kind of spring, and we build our class leading into every October. We want to take somewhere between 35 and 50 leaders a year. And again, our heartbeat is to attract every faith-based professional in the city. We're not affiliated with a church. We're not affiliated with a denomination. So we have had last year, I think we had 9 different denominations in the room.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's our heart, is let's have some real conversation at the table. We want every industry represented. So we are looking for the C-suiters, and we are looking for entrepreneurs, and we are looking for everybody in between.
Pastors,
nonprofit leaders, everything. And our heart is really to build out tables. You get assigned a table to go through the journey with. And at each table, we want somebody from every industry represented, so that when we're having a conversation about work and faith, you can hear from a CEO, and you can hear from an entrepreneur, and you can hear from a nonprofit leader, and you can hear from a teacher. I mean, we really want that conversation to be
You
organic.
don't want 6 lawyers at one table or 6 financial advisors at one table.
We're very strategic about not placing them all together.
And each table has 2 table coaches. Mm-hmm. Can you talk through the responsibilities of the table coaches, how important they are to the success of the cohort?
They really are. I mean, every year when we do the commissioning interviews with the class, the number one thing that people say, it was a great experience versus it was an okay experience, was their table coaches. So the value of the coaches, and our coaches are all alumni. So they are people that have gone through the program, so they understand, and then they lead a table through it, and they guide the discussion. They do, tween times or squad sessions, we call them, which are in between the sessions where you meet as a table. And truthfully, the blessing, the favor, the magic happens at the tables. So we bring in some of the greatest speakers from around the world, and they're powerful. But the magic is in the relationships that happen, and that's fostered by the coaches.
I'm going to read, so transforming leaders to transform cities. That's kind of a one-line tagline, right? Motto. Clarifying your calling, connecting to like-minded community, and captivating your city. Because we'll get to the speakers in a second. That's something every month I'm like, this is the best. Next month, this was the best. Yeah. Let's go through these. So clarify your calling. Mm-hmm. How does Lifework help the cohort do that?
It's so funny because sometimes we'll get some big leaders in that, they're CEOs of a company that they've been CEO of for 25 years. And you'd think, okay, they got their calling. They figured it out. And yet the way we walk through it with Lifework, you do different assessments and you hear different speakers and you start talking to people at your table and you just begin to tweak it and go, maybe God's called me to something different, or maybe he's called me to do it different. Like maybe I can lead my company or lead my business differently. And maybe my calling is that God put me in this place to share Christ in a way that I've never done it before. So a lot of people catch that. I already know what I'm called to do. I'm called to do this. And they think that's not for me. And so, yes, there are some people that walk out of it and go, I've been in the wrong job my whole life. That definitely happens.
I'm moving to Montana.
Right, exactly. But for the most part, it is a recognition of like, I'm called to do it differently or to do it better or to do it with Christ at the center. So that's really what we hone in on and clarifying the calling.
These are the three. If you go to the website too, I think it's just lifeworkleadership.com.
Lifeworkfirstcoast.com. If you go to Lifework Leadership, you'll go to the global.
Yeah, and then there's the website shows the cities.
Yes, correct.
The second one, connecting to like-minded community. This is huge. Community is a big deal. And the cohort I was in, every single one of them, you're talking about all walks of life, community leaders trying to improve. So let's go through that. Connecting like-minded. How, why, how?
Well, and I think your story is just that. I mean, just sitting here, in between talking, you've mentioned 10 different connections in this last year that all came about from somebody that you met at Lifework. And so there is a real, genuine, I want to do life with people that are like-minded, but I also want to do business with people that are like-minded. So I must get, no exaggeration, 10 to 15 emails, calls, texts a day that say, hey, Tammie, do we have a dentist in Lifework? Hey, Tammie, do we have a, and there is this interweaving connectivity of like-minded people that is, it is unbelievable.
I'll give some examples. So guests of this show, some of my favorite guests who I didn't know before Lifework. My approach going into it, I think everyone's different because some people do things like this and like, I'm going to prospect, I'm going to sell. Hey, I'm Eric Ross, I'm with 212. Hey, I do like, I didn't want to even talk about business. I wanted to improve my relationship with Christ, meet like-minded people and find ways to bring that back to the workplace. But the amount of people you meet, I don't know how to explain it. And another example is hey, Tammie, do you know person X? Yes, I do very well. He went through Lifework. Would you be comfortable putting me in touch? 100%. The conversation ratio of past graduates is just saying, hey, I just got through Lifework. I understand you went through it also. I'd love to talk. Done. Mm-hmm. And that's special. And it's not, yes, to get business and sell your product or your widget, but it's a special community.
And we really say it's not meant to be solicitation. Like, I don't want you walking in. Like, we train people. You don't walk in with your business card saying, hi, I'm so-and-so.
Yeah.
It just happens organically because when you begin to build relationships with people, you begin to trust them. And then you want to do business with them. So when you need a, new roof, you're like, hey, Tammie, there's got to be somebody in Lifework that does roofs. So it just happens organically.
This one's my favorite. I moved to Jacksonville in 2001 to go to the University of North Florida. Swoop. We got a lot of swoopers. 3 swoopers. Great ties to that school now, too. I fell in love with it here. Met my wife here. I have kids. My parents moved here from South Florida. Like, when people ask me about Jacksonville, I kind of want to brag, but I'm also like, I don't want too many people to come
Right.
here.
We don't want them to all know our secret.
Captivating the city. How do we give back? How do you improve the community? That's a big part of it. Can you share what...
And I think that's the one that makes Lifework so different from every other leadership training or development or conference that you go to is we hope you come into Lifework understanding that we want you to leave with an actionable item, thing, takeaway, something that's going to change the city for Jesus Christ. So when we talk about captivating your heart for this city, the idea is this is where God called you for right now. And so there are people who are lost in the city, and through your job and where God's called you and the people that he's connected you with, you can literally change the city for Jesus Christ. And so our heart is you need to know the city. So every session is somewhere different because what's happening on the west side is different than what's happening at the beaches or what's happening downtown. So our heart is to show you what's happening in the city. We do the walking tour of the city to learn the history of the city. We bring in city leaders and, we want you to walk away from this. If you're not already in love with the city, being absolutely in love with the city for the sake of Jesus Christ. How can I make this city better for him?
You talk about locations. So there's a couple country clubs in there, right? We did Queens Harbor, we did San Jose, but Rethreaded, wonderful location. Feeding Northeast Florida, the WW Gay office, Timuquana. There's a couple country clubs in there.
Nice.
But you go to different parts of town. It was, again, wonderful experience. Do you know how many people have gone through the First Coast total, approximately?
We're a little over 600. So we have a little over 600 alumni. We've been here 17 years. So you figure we take somewhere between, let's say roughly 40 people a cohort, give or take. 17 years. And then we had done our GRIT program, which is our youth program. So we led that for several years. So when you combine them all, we're over 600.
600 community leaders giving back to the community based off of their faith. I think that's pretty cool. And then worldwide, I don't know what that number looks like. Probably a lot.
Yeah, it's over 4,000, I think, worldwide now.
So speakers, every monthly session you have, there's probably 3 to 5 speakers per. What do they look like? I mean, what are they talking about?
Right.
Not like, what do they physically look like?
About 5 foot.
So Joe is 6 foot.
Yeah. You know what I mean.
Thankfully, because Lifework is global, there is a shared speaker, inventory that we can grab from. So we're able to grab people from all over, which is how I get to go to South Africa. They just called and said, hey, would you come speak? So we kind of share that network. But these are all, believers in Christ who have held unbelievably powerful and high positions, who come share about that. And they're really raw. I mean,
Yeah, real.
You have like Chuck Benjagochia, who was the CEO of Coca-Cola. And he tells his story. The one year he spoke on humility, and he talked about he got really cocky being the CEO of Coke. Loved Jesus, same stuff. Tithe, did all the stuff. Got a little cocky. And Family Christian Bookstore back in the day was failing. And they called him in to save the Family Christian Bookstore. And he thought, well, of course I'll save it. I'm the CEO of Coca-Cola and it's a Jesus place. So of course. And he was like, not only did I not save it, I tanked it faster than any business has ever tanked. I was on the front of Wall Street Journal as the worst CEO to ever, so he just tells these stories that are real life. Like my pride got in the way. And, he was talking on humility and how important humility is as we lead, that we need to lead with humility. So you get to sit in a room with 40 or 50 people under some of the greatest leaders in the world.
Yeah, locally too. It was a great balance of local leaders and I would say international or at least national. I'm going to go through this. You have relationships, worldview, compassion and generosity, integrity, courage. My favorite was humility. So you're how do you go through Jesus's journey and throughout the cohort? Did that make sense? As I said, I'm like, I don't know if that question made sense.
It does. Well, and that's why they call it the Jesus journey, because it really is a journey, 8 months of looking at the life of Christ with his disciples and how he taught them. And he said, listen, you need to build relationships with people. That's why that's a topic. And the relationships have to be with people that don't always look like you, talk like you, act like you. So, I think it was last year, I think it was Bill Jurgen from Correct Craft, who said, and it changed my life.
So there it is. Look at the top of the list.
Look at that book.
Shout out.
He made a comment that he said, if everybody in your Facebook feed or your Twitter feed or your Instagram feed thinks like you, then you're not really a learner. You're a knower. You think you know it all. He's like, but true learners have people on their feed that think differently. And I was like, oh, I'm a knower. Like I have all people that think like me on mine. I'm like going to try to friend people that don't think like me. I was like, I stink at this.
We always talk about remarkables. I got a remarkable before it started. It's under one folder, just pages and pages. Sometimes I'll go back and look. There's so many of these like one line, we'll call them bangers. I like my kids say bangers. Like, oh, I forgot about that. It was and it was every single month it happened again and again. I did have to, again, miss the virtual one. I'm going to try to go. I know.
You can make it up this year. As an alumni, you can come back.
So this is, what happens if, have any speakers just bombed where they're like, oh, they're not coming back? You don't have to name names, but what does that look like? Does anyone come to you afterwards like, man, that was terrible?
Yes. My board will let me know. I'll get the email like, that's not happening again. So yes, we definitely have had some that, and that, is a testament to just because you're successful in business doesn't necessarily make you a great speaker. So we have sometimes brought people in thinking, oh my gosh, they're the CEO of XYZ and they're a bazillionaire and they love Jesus. So they seem like they would be great. And then they get there and you're like, oh, not so great.
Passing out coffee or Red Bull. Yeah.
It's rough. We try to like stand in the back and be like, wrap it up, So, definitely we've had some ones that are not as great as others.
Go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, I just got a quick question. Have you guys ever had somebody want to join a cohort that maybe wasn't a believer?
It's a great question. We have had a couple. Yeah, we've had several. A few years ago, we had a Muslim, and he was referred by an alumni. And I was like, that's an interesting referral, right? So I met with him, and he's the greatest guy. I mean, honestly, one of our best alumni. I think we're very honest with who we are going into those conversations. So I had a real conversation with him that said, listen, here's who we are. Here's what we believe. Here's our statement of faith. I need you to know when you come into this, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about heaven. We're going to talk about hell. We're going to talk about Jesus, and faith. Like, you can't come in trying to convert people, and we are going to try to convert you. Like, I'm just going to be real honest. Like,
fair.
I'm not hiding who we are. If you're okay with it, then we would welcome you in and love you to be part of us. If not, understandable. But, you just need to know going in who we are. So we have had atheists. We have had Muslims. So, yeah.
I think that's a great approach versus like, oh, nope, you're not welcome here. Back to the speakers. I always look at if you talk to a room of 100 people, if you reach 51% of the audience, that's good. So when you have speakers, do you still have, no matter what, there's going to be people like, that was terrible. Meanwhile, there's 10 people that say that was great. What's the feedback look like? Are they emailing you after every session? Are they calling you on the side?
So I don't know if you remember, you would get a survey after every session, right? So we get a lot of feedback after every session about loved the speaker. And it's hilarious because, to your point, we'll get somebody that's like, that was terrible. You don't ever need to bring them back. And then the next person will be like, changed my life forever. And you're just like, So, I mean, there's always going to be that. But overwhelmingly, if they get a good response, we'll keep them in the pool. And we try to rotate it.
Yep.
Because once you graduate the program, you get to stay an alumni. That's forever. And so you can pay what we call a legacy due, which allows you to come back.
I still owe those, by the way.
That's right.
Yep.
I'm calling you out here that those will be paid.
Consider it done.
But that allows you to come back to every session again the next year. And so we want to change up the speakers some from year to year because we want our alumni to want to come back.
That's a great transition, like the alumni component of it. Yeah, you go through a cohort, you get very close with your table coaches, but this is not, all right, you're done. A lot of people stay engaged, whether they come back to one session a year, table coach, but how do you keep the alumni engaged?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at your brick, right?
Oh, yeah.
So when you graduate, goofy as it is, you get a brick, which is here on your table, which is great. And the idea is really that brick by brick, person by person, job by job, profession by profession. We are going to build this city up for Jesus Christ. That's the heart. And this brick is at every graduation of every Lifework city around the world. So there are thousands of these bricks around the world symbolizing what we hope this will do. And I cannot tell you how many stories have come back to me about the brick. Somebody's going for an interview and they look up in the corner and there's a brick and they're like, you went to Lifework. I went to Lifework. And then there is just this instant, we have something in common. And that has led to more jobs and more connections than anything else that we have. And so sometimes people will leave Lifework and be like, oh, it was great, but I didn't necessarily make the connection that I was hoping, or I didn't get the new client or whatever they were hoping to get out of it. They'll leave and think, I didn't get it. And then 6 years later, I'll get a call that's like, oh my gosh, I bumped into so-and-so who was a life worker. And you just see that connection happen.
In the future, so moving forward, you keep it small intentionally. Like, you probably could fill a class of 100, but then it loses that, I think the feel to it.
It does. We really have landed one year, somebody did like 19 thinking it would be really close. And it was almost too small. You didn't feel like you met enough people. And then we've landed really around between 40 to 50 would be pretty much our cap.
Yeah. Because
you want to be able to meet the people in the room and really make connection and feel like when, John Gordon's in the room that you have this private, intimate connection with John Gordon, which where else are you going to get that? So we keep it small enough on purpose, which then allows us to get to where, we have a wait list. And so there is a real need for people that are like, hey, I got to get in. And if I didn't get in this year, then I got to go next year. And so, we get to see how it's creating, this is something I want to be part of, baby. Right? Yeah.
Supply
and so,
demand.
That's a blessing to be in that place. It's a little bit hard for me as the evangelist. Like, my gut says if somebody wants to spend 9 months learning about Jesus, I don't want to say no. So like, I'd take 100 because I'm like, we're going to tell you about Jesus for 9 months. And so my board has to tamper me a little bit.
What's the board look like? How many board members do they rotate on? Boards matter.
Boards matter. I have an amazing board. So we have 11 of us right now.
Okay.
I could rattle off their names and you would be like, wow, these are the greatest people in the city that sit on this board. And they're not just a board in name. They are a working board.
An active board.
An active board. Mm-hmm.
Not slapping it on their LinkedIn profile?
No. They are amazing people who hold me accountable. And I mean, we just had a big opportunity. We had talked a little bit about the coffee shops and,
shout out Cup of Job.
Cup of Job, here we are. So, I mean, that's a whole piece of Lifework that we launched. And we had a really cool opportunity to potentially do a merger and acquisition, which would have been a pretty big deal for us. And my board turned it down. And they turned it down for my sake. Like, I'm the, let's go, do, that's more, we can do it, more Jesus. And they were wise enough and healthy enough to tell me it's not going to be good for you right now. We're going to say no to that. So I have an amazing board.
Shout out to the board.
Go ahead, Trey.
Real quick, earlier you had mentioned, you said there's a program for youth. Is that correct?
We had a program for youth for about 4 years.
Enough.
The lady that ran it ended up having to move, and we have not been able to replace her yet. It is still there. We have the curriculum. It's on the website. We are just looking for the right person to take it over.
You need the person.
I needed the person. So it was similar to what we're talking about Lifework, but we do it for high school students. And it was amazing. It really focused on, when we talked about calling, it was helping high school kids identify what their calling is. So it was sometimes the first time a high school kid got to do a spiritual gift assessment and say, oh, this is a gift God gave me. And what does that look like in the workplace? And because we have 600 alumni who are in every industry, their graduation, unlike what we do with the adults, their graduation is a job fair. And they put down the top 5 things they think they want to do. And we bring in alumni who are doing that. And they get to sit one-on-one with their family with somebody that's doing what they think they want to do.
Bring it back.
Yeah, we got to bring it back.
So it's an amazing program. We just haven't found the right person to take the mantle up. So it's stalled right now.
Couple minutes left. If you look at this next cohort or in the future, what advice would you give people coming in? Like they're in it, they're starting it, and I have mine. It's like anything, you get out of it what you put into it. Mm-hmm. If you go in there ready to learn, ready to listen, like you're going to get a lot out of it. What? Yeah,
I think we have another great cohort. I say it every year. This is my favorite class, but every year I'm like, oh, it's just great people that are coming in. So we do have a great cohort this year. I think similar to what you say, they come into it not knowing what to expect. And I say it at the retreat every year. Like, it feels like this is going to be a long 8 months. It goes so fast. And all of a sudden you're graduating and you're like, oh, I missed out. I should have served. I should have gone to the tween time. I shouldn't have missed that session. I shouldn't have, because everything that we offer you, if you don't take advantage of it, you're missing out on a very powerful piece of life work. And so although you start out and think, oh, this is 8 months, this is a long year of my life that I'm gonna be with these people, you blink and you're like, oh my gosh, like that was so fast. And so I would just encourage them that if you're going to commit to it, it's once a month. Just be all in.
And when does it start? Like what are those 8 months?
Yeah, so we start October 16th is the launch. So if anybody is interested, the class is pretty full right now. However, we have already started the wait list for next year. And so there is an application on the website that I would encourage anybody that's listening to fill it out because we will start filling the next class pretty quick.
And the website is?
Lifeworkfirstcoast.com.
All right.
Well, speaking of things going by quickly, we're out of time. Darn it. Any last minute shout outs?
Your husband?
My husband? Yeah, we should have called and prayed before. So I felt like
that would have been two in a day.
The last. Yeah. I didn't quite get as spiritual as the last guest. So no, to Lifework, to Cup of Job, to the board. I mean, genuinely to the people that have made Lifework successful. I just get to come in and lead it. So
thank you for joining us. That was wonderful. Lifework Leadership First Coast CEO Dr. Tammie McClafferty. Not McClarity.
Not McClarity.
Definitely not. That's what the hell just happened.